It's recording this time. All right, guys, your bell ringer is on the board. For those of you that might not be able to read it, Hitler wins. Imagine that Germany under Adolf Hitler, together with Germany's ally Japan, won World War II. How would the world be different today? Take a few minutes, talk with your partners, and see what you guys can come up with, and then we'll come back together and see what you've done.
It would come down to alright, we took everybody else out. Now let's
Think about what our government is saying.
Or an empire. Depending on who won Germany. Well, except for in yeah, it was communist. If the communists would all have a guaranteed job, but if it was empire, there'd still be unemployment. How a communist is everybody all of a sudden except we'd be getting crap wages.
Well, if he owns everything,
We'd make like a good on a good week, probably. On a good week, probably maybe $50.
so it would just be a domino effect for everybody. It would be taken out.
Where was Jesus born?
Not a well, that's what I mentioned. They always have military power.
There's a place where we're supposed to back up.
Hitler was a European.
There's a war.
Right.
He would kill everyone. The other should kill him.
And aren't those people Jews?
Yes.
The world, basically, you're saying is that the world would constantly be it'd be an endless war.
Huh?
Something would be like Iraq.
You say Iraq?
Iraq.
That's like Iraq.
Just
Oh.
No.
all right, guys, I hear you winding down. Let's come back together. I'm going to pick on a few of you. Nathan, how would the world be different?
One thing is that yeah, the Axis powers would have won, but through their different views, they're wanting to expand their thing. They'd end up coming to a point to where, like, all right, we took down everybody else. Now let's us one-on-one settle this.
That's a very interesting idea.
And one thing Ethan stated is that even then, the world would probably be run if one of them had their way, the world would be run by one government, and there would constantly. You have 7 billion people under your control.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did annihilate everybody that wasn't, say, Hitler won the Germany-Japan War. Even if you annihilated everybody that wasn't Aryan, you would still have so many people spread out among the world that you could have no way to keep an eye on that whenever rebellion would spark.
That would be.
The world would be constantly at war.
It would be. Can you imagine one person trying to control billions of people? It wouldn't work, would it?
No, it didn't work. It didn't work.
Right, it didn't work for trying to conquer Europe, did it?
Mm-mm.
So if they had succeeded, it would have probably collapsed. Because expansion is what? You cannot do what with them?
You can't please them. You can't satisfy them.
Yeah, you can't make them happy. So they're always going to want and push, you know. It's going to get bad. It does nothing but blows up in their face. Raya, what do you think of that?
probably had like more of a military-based country, you probably would have like brainwashed everyone
Yeah, a
into
lot.
thinking his way.
We would not have a democracy anymore, would we? And we'd probably be speaking what?
German.
I don't know about, I don't know about you, but I don't like the German language. Sounds like you're trying to, clear your throat. And, you need an umbrella if somebody's talking to you in German. It's just not pretty. And of course, we wouldn't have the lovely Anna or the lovely Jessica. And then poor Ramon back there. We wouldn't be, blessed with their presence because what color skin do they have? Sorry guys, I love y'all.
That's the most racist way you could have said it.
Should we like
Just talk about
pale
it.
language.
We wouldn't have any kind of freedom, would we?
Nope.
What kind of life would we have? I mean, think about it sincerely.
Very
Military
hard
base.
life because no one
Control
can
law.
be free thinking.
Do you think that we would have any dreamers, any, amazing writers? All those, the arts. The arts is a big thing in the world, right? In every country, you've got artists, you've got creators, you've got dreamers. Do those work in a militaristic style government?
No. One thing is that to get to my point, I do have to state a pro of communism. I don't believe in I don't like the idea of a communism, but one thing that a communist government does it guarantee is that everybody will be employed. But one problem with that is that they do make very, for lack of a better word, crappy wages.
Right. You sacrifice your freedom, who you are, for that security of a house over your head, food on your table, military protection for your country. Is it worth that price, though? No. Not the way Hitler would have done it. I'm not willing to give that up. I think it would be a big mess. Because would we make many advances in technology?
They probably would have.
Non-military technology,
stopped
probably
what
not.
you
No,
wanted.
because a lot of stuff has come in during that time now.
Or you have like you said, your artists and stuff who free think things and they can experiment more with their like techniques and stuff. Whereas if you were assigned to something, you're not able to finish out your thoughts and everything, so you have to think.
Well, exactly. And your colleges, they would be more like, college wouldn't be like what we've got now where, you pick a major, you take, 2 years of basically the same classes, everybody does it, and then you take classes that are, more customized for your major, that you've chosen on your own. They're going to be more like prep schools, military schools. You're going to go in and get brainwashed.
And I don't know if this is necessarily true, but one thing I have heard is that typically they kind of look at, they don't let you pick what you're going to do in your life. They look at what they think your skills are more set for, and they basically choose what you do.
Yeah, you don't have a career choice, do you?
Can women go to college? Or was it just subject to?
Well, they need nurses, they need teachers, and, secretaries, or like administrative professionals, right? So women are gonna have to get trained.
But do they pick which ones would like
Yes.
to see what?
You've got a specific skill set, or if you're born, and at the time you're born, hey, you know what, some person in the government says, hey, I see a need, sir, to Hitler, for nurses. I need, need a couple thousand nurses. And I see that need opening. Or I need more tank mechanics, more
So whatever was
doctors.
needed is what you had to do.
Right, you plan. They plan every level of society. And everybody's got a place. It's like a big, huge puzzle. Everybody has a part to play. And the best way to do that, get everybody in the same thought process.
So they have their own prayers.
Yep. And make there be stiff punishments for any type of, you can't talk bad about Hitler. You can't talk bad about anybody else. You've got to do what the boss says.
If they even believe, in some cases, if they even believe that you may have thoughts of doubts, they would, well, get rid of the problem.
It's easier to get rid of the problem and pull in someone else. Like these, like jobs, you know, a lot of places will be like, you know what, if you're not willing to do it, someone else will. And they'll fire you and they won't think twice about it. Kind of the same premise. Hitler had a point, and if you couldn't, you know, pull your weight and couldn't do what he needs you to do,
You done.
you were done. End of discussion. I mean, that went from the top to the bottom. It did not matter.
Isn't another thing, like, if we were like that, we would like be more sent to like us with like marriage and stuff.
Very possibly. You wouldn't marry because you love somebody. You wouldn't have the big, huge, factory wedding, right?
You would,
Okay, I
you would
have a
basically be put with who would go ahead.
Okay, you know how he wanted the perfect Aryan race? Okay, so the people who look the same would have to like have children together. So in the end, when it got down to it, well, we'd all be inbred and stupid.
It would take generations.
Because if you wanted the perfect,
It would take generations, but yes, we would come to that.
because like the royals are used to marry like their cousins and stuff.
Right, to
have
keep the
multiple-
bloodline. Yeah.
Is that how he was kind of like thinking?
Yes.
To keep it in,
Yes.
keep it in the family, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you breed by traits. You know, if he had a perfect specimen male and a perfect specimen female, he would put them together and tell them to produce children.
Wait, these are not family people, right? They're not related. or
No.
related.
No, he would just pick, he would go by your genetic traits.
You would
You know, if
basically
you-
pick the most compatible.
Right, genetically.
Like, say this woman was a very skilled, God, I can't think.
Same
Did
IQ
did
level
that
and same
actually
traits.
happen
Yeah.
in Germany when he was born?
Yes, you know, right, while they had concentration camps for Jews, like you knew, when we studied World War II, he also had these, they were more like retreats. They weren't horrible places to be, but he had people that fit that definition of the perfect human. That
So
perfect
that women
Aryan.
couldn't mingle with anyone else.
Right, he kept them kind of secluded, and they had experiments run on them just like the Jews did in the concentration camps.
But they just weren't.
They were trying to.
They
bring
weren't
out-
as bad, it was more breeding experiments.
They
Or,
were trying to bring out the greatest potential of the.
right, he wanted to create perfect specimens of this Aryan race. And so that's what these people were put there to do. That was all they did. Had scientists, like he had world-renowned scientists, you know, and geneticists and all these kind of people working on that one goal to create the perfect specimen. So that he could fill the whole world with them was his whole goal. So, you guys really took off with this today. This leads us directly into talking about what happened after World War II. We ended up with a lot of problems. We had war criminals that we had to deal with. I mean, these people exterminated millions of people for no good reason other than they weren't, you know, Aryan. So, now you're left with what to do with them. And what you should, like the Treaty of Versailles, if you will remember. Who wrote the Treaty of Versailles, the winners or the losers?
The winners.
The winners. And who got punished out of it?
The losers.
The losers, Germany. And that's what kind of incited, as we know, World War II.
Started.
You know, the people were mad. Hitler was what? Perfect time, perfect place.
Perfect person.
And it blew up from there.
Right.
Literally, it's like a train wreck you can't take your eyes off of, sadly. And it was playing out on the world stage. Thing is, you know, nobody really noticed until he started doing what? Pushing out. Because you can't appease what?
And expansions.
An expansionist country. So he's power hungry. Hitler is very charismatic, and he has a huge ego. He probably couldn't get his head through a door.
Antichrist. Because he like got everyone on his side and played with everyone's words and minds and all that.
Yep,
Yeah, there's
that he
secret
did.
home.
So now we've ended World War II. And who's to blame? Who started World War II?
Germany.
Germany. So they've got to be punished, right? We've got to set an example because mass genocide, which is what that was called when all the Jews were killed, or most of them, sadly. You can't have that happen again, can you?
Mm-mm.
It's like, wow, we didn't really notice what was going on. You know, the rest of the world's sitting there going, we didn't notice this going on right under our noses. That could happen in our country.
The majority of the Allies really didn't know until they were basically marching through abandoned German territory and they saw the camps being.
Right, nobody knew. See, you've got people that walked through those camps that reported back to their, senior officers. And some of those senior officers, who got to walk through them themselves, they were reporting this back to, Churchill and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
They're saying to these Allied leaders, they're looking at them going, oh my gosh. There's these furnaces. And there's just dead bodies everywhere. And there's, the signs of experiments that were run. They are starved to death. And there's these gas chambers. And, they're just at a loss for words, right? I mean, the horrors that they saw. Like, oh my gosh. We can't let this go unpunished. Now, the problem comes. America, Great Britain, and who's the third one?
Russia.
Russia.
Or the Soviet
Union at that time. Thank you. Soviet Union at that time. Do we all have the same type of governments?
No.
They all think differently, so I think they're really close.
Yep. Do we have the same type of judicial system?
Yeah.
We had nothing the same.
So now we've got the problem of how are we going to do this? Because Churchill, he's the one that I always have an easy time remembering, and you will too. He said, line them up
Line them up, knock them down.
and knock them down. Let's be done with them. I'm done with them. We know what they did. Don't care who told them to do it. They chose to do it. I'm done with them.
So they have to have
No, he had no
mercy.
mercy, no nothing. Now, the Soviet Union, they were like, well, let's just kind of have a trial for show, right? And then we can put a firing squad.
But different plot, same ending.
Right. And America, they're thinking about our legal system. What does the Constitution grant us?
A fair
Fair
trial.
With a jury of our
Years.
peers. So they're thinking, you know what? We need to get a judge or some judges together. We need to get them some legal representation. We need to make sure that everything is done on the world stage. We need everybody to see, and we need the results to make a definitive statement. Because we can't let this happen again. Because can you imagine?
Why did we only have three major powers try to stop the war instead of everyone Africa and all them?
Africa at this point,
Because they're
Nothing
big
but
countries.
villages.
they're less developed than we are.
Oh.
That's why they're considered a third world country, and like India, especially we're talking
Because you
1940s,
hear about the three majors and the
they're much less developed. Australia at that time is more, it's just part of England, so you have to count it as part of England at that point.
That was still where the first one came.
Right. So that is why you don't have more countries involved. This is the era of the big superpowers. This is the time that defines the big guy, the big man on campus, for lack of a better term. So now, do you think Hitler was tried in front of a jury?
No, he killed himself.
He killed himself. How did he do that?
Shot himself.
Yep, he supposedly, there's conspiracy theories about everything, but from all reports, he shot himself in a bunker. So he never got tried.
Where was it?
It was in Germany, underground somewhere.
Said that he waited until he could.
No.
He waited until he could hear the.
Was I there around
Because he was reported to be in there and there were people that had seen him go into that bunker prior to.
So he could like.
So he could, that's why there's a conspiracy theories that
Yeah,
say,
that doesn't make
you know,
sense.
how do we know? And he had body doubles and he had this and he had that, 'cause he was paranoid about getting killed.
I wonder why.
You know, right? Wouldn't you be?
Well, you put a huge target on your back like that, you're gonna be paranoid.
Exactly. You know, you're this big bully, for lack of a better word, and all these other kids come from the, you know, the other side of the playground, you know, ready to make mincemeat out of you. Are you gonna stand there and take it? No, I wouldn't.
I think it's me.
So he's gonna run into hiding. I don't blame him. Now also, his right-hand man was charged.
Didn't he kind of like
Took a sign out there.
He took a sign.
take Hitler's like punishment kind of like?
He was sentenced to death, but before that could happen, he snuck a cyanide capsule and some skin medication into the prison and killed himself.
How were they
Wait,
held?
how could he kill himself?
If you take a cyanide capsule, you break it into your mouth,
It's a
kills
very
you
fast
within a
acting
few
poison.
seconds. Minute tops. It's a lot of, like example, Japanese soldiers, would use things like that. You know, especially if they're going out on missions and they're not supposed to come home. If you don't succeed at your mission, it's better to kill yourself than to come home failure.
How were they held? Were they held like regular criminals, or were they held like since they
Max
have
security
money?
is what
Were
she
they
has there.
held in like comfort?
I'd imagine like maximum.
It
security.
was not the greatest of conditions. I'm not exactly sure the exact conditions, but I can tell you it occurred in Nuremberg. That's why they're called the Nuremberg trials. That was
Like
a,
the Peace Palace or something.
right, yes. It was more of a central location where you would have a less biased, you know, environment per se, because the world's, I mean, at this point, you're either for Germany or against Germany, and it's a very heated thing. You know, it's black or white for you. And this place was kind of a sanctum, you know, something, a nice neutral ground.
Where no one can do anything.
Right. So, now that we've picked a place, right, they picked Nuremberg, how would you decide, I mean,
You would need like
we use judges, England uses tribunals,
the same thing.
basically, but it's just like a panel of judges instead of just one. What do you think they're gonna do?
You have to make like set rules that no one can like swap around or get loopholes and stuff there, right?
Wait, if
Right.
they got together before the trials and made these international laws, to tell you the truth, wouldn't that be a bit biased if they make laws that have already been broken before they were made?
That was an argument, we'll get to that, Nathan, keep that thought. Keep that thought, because
I
that's
just
something
thought of
that the accused brought up. So now you've got, I'll go ahead and let you know, what they did was they decided to go more British with the judging part of it. They had a something similar to a tribunal, they called it a panel. You had two judges from from the three major powers. One main and one backup in the event that the main
Something.
one couldn't fulfill the duties or something happened or they died or got sick or whatever. So the three countries are represented. And then each country provided legal counsel. And they were kind of assigned like a public defender, right? That same thing that, you know, you have the right to an attorney and they just hand you one. That's kind of what happened to all of these war criminals. And we're not talking just military people, there were doctors, scientists, you know, other people under Hitler's power that were not military,
Were they just kind of like the major ones, or was it just everybody?
major ones,
Major.
major players that they could prove stuff on.
They had evidence on.
Yes. And they tried them for crimes against humanity and, you know, things of that. I could list you off the whole mess of them, but they all come back to just crimes against humanity. Now, that being said, had anything like this happened before? So there
Not-
was no
not
legal
to-
precedence, was there?
Not to this scale.
I mean, there's always going to be some kind of fighting, but there was never something this horrible.
Right, that, you know, a big definitive statement had to be made about. and be something you had to prevent again. Because history's gonna repeat itself if you don't stop it and pay attention. So, that being said, let's say that I'm one of these war criminals, and I'm sitting there with my legal representation, because each country uses different terms for.
Did they not get
Lawyers.
like a German since they were German?
No.
They just got whatever they got handed to.
I'm gonna look at him and go, he made me do it. He being Hitler. How could I tell him no? He would have killed me. He'd kill my family. Do you think that's a legitimate excuse?
Not really.
I can kind of see it both ways, because if you don't do what he says, you're going to have to face really bad consequences. But you also have your own freedom of choice and what's right and what's wrong, and they make the choice to
They're the
follow
same.
him.
Well, like for some people,
They'd
they
be at the
didn't really
point.
wanna do it, but then some people really did, so there's no way to.
There's no way to judge that, is there? Because yes, some people might not have really wanted to do it, but they were so scared for maybe losing their wife and their children.
Making about your family.
They-
Right, you know, they put others above themselves. Now then their son, yes, that were like, yeah, let's go. Right, you know, they'll bring the bat and they'll come with you.
One thing you gotta weigh into the equation is even if they really did do it, yeah, that's your family, but to tell you the truth, that to the world, those, as terrible as it sounds, those are just like, say your immediate family. You have a guy has a wife and 2 kids. That's just for random people compared to millions that were lost.
Mm-hmm.
You have to weigh if 4 were really more important than millions.
And so you've got to think too, these people are not all old. Hitler had been planning this for years and years and years and years and years. So he had already been building these schools and
How
this
old was he?
system. He was in his 40s or 50s.
He was. He had experience.
Yes, he did. And there was time to get the Hitler Youth. There was plenty of time for brainwashing. You know, a lot of people that were tried were not necessarily old, and it was,
You know nothing.
they really believed in what they were doing
Because they had been brainwashed.
because they'd been brainwashed. They didn't know
If
anything.
I'm
My question, do people, like, do they still believe like that?
There are some that did, yes, sadly.
Took over and
There are some people that believe that one race is the predominant race.
How,
would still,
like,
I would still be a bad
how
guy
long
for the fact that I chose
Oh,
my
it's
family
not
over those
good.
400 people.
He
And
took
you're
power
right,
in
it's
1933.
Because I killed them. Now say,
And was dead by 45.
family members were on that plane.
We had a while.
He had 12 years, but he had been in the ranks of government and
Working his way.
working his way up, and a lot of his ideas got implemented before he was even in power.
He just knew like how to work people.
He knew how to work the system. It wasn't that he was brilliant. I don't want to give him credit because of what he started and what he did.
But he
but-
just knew how to work things.
He was one of those people. He knew
What
He
he
could-
wanted and
what he
knew how
needed to
get
do.
it.
For lack of a better term, work a crowd.
He did. He was an entertainer. He practiced his speeches for hours on end in front of a mirror. Every single one that he ever gave had been practiced for hours. He had it down to like a dance routine, you know, almost, where you would you have a time in your head of things you've got to do at specific spots in the song. He knew that at specific parts in this speech, you know, that he wanted to incite his people to agree with him and go, you know, Heil, you know, show the loyalty, you know, get them riled up. He knew how to control them.
Since they were already angry.
Yep, they were already angered. So you just poke a stick at them a little bit, right? It's not going to take you much to incite them to, yeah, let's go for it. These people welcomed this with cheers and applause, not realizing some of them didn't even really know what was happening to the Jews.
Didn't he have them thinking that the Jews were like really bad and
Everything that's going wrong in Germany, guess whose fault it is?
Why?
The Jews.
Like, what was his reason? for just-
He was mad at the Jews because I believe the story is
His
his mom. His mom had a run-in with a Jewish doctor. Things did not go as they should have, and so he blamed
That-
all Jews
For his mother's.
for his mother. And
And that just happened to be a very high percentage minority in
What-
Germany.
he held a grudge for that long.
But really, weren't the Jews helping the economy? Because they had like this.
Well, look at what,
Minority in
Tim,
Germany
let's
at the time.
be, I hate to be stereotypical, but I want you to think, when you think of a Jew
They're
in the
smart.
United States right now, what do you think of?
Smart.
They're smart, what
They
else?
They have, like, they know how to math, really good
Math. So that makes them great what?
Accountants.
Accountants and
Business
business
owners.
owners.
Vendors and
They're smart.
They're good with money, very good.
They're stingy.
And that's good.
They did great things for the German economy. They were trying to rebuild it.
She said they're
After
good with
World
money. I
War
said, That's
I.
going a bit far.
They had great doctors. Like, look, remember from the boy in the striped pajamas? Remember the older man? What did he do when the little boy cut his knee open?
Powell?
Powell, thank you. He bandaged it. He took care of him, and the little boy's freaking out that he's got to go to the doctor, and mom's going to find out. It's going to be drama. But what was Powell?
A
A
doctor.
doctor. And what was he sitting in the kitchen doing?
peeling potatoes.
I mean, it's just, they went from being such, great people in society to treated like worse than you would treat your dog.
Did they have to wear the
I treat my
pajamas?
dogs well.
Well, the little boy called them pajamas because he didn't understand that they were uniforms.
I was thinking,
They were like what you would, remember,
are they like striped for prison guards?
yes, like, they were like what we used for prison garments here in the U.S., the stripe that you would see on the chain gang and you've seen in movies and whatnot. They were very similar to those with numbers, and that's why the little boy called them pajamas. He didn't understand that they were uniforms. So now, do you think all of the criminals were found guilty? Getting back to the trial.
To an extent.
Probably.
May not as harsh as others, but probably to an extent.
Justice, this played out on the world stage. Imagine, nowadays, when things go viral, we all know it pretty quick, don't we? We can pull out our phone, or open up our laptop, or get our tablet out, and we can see everything, sometimes more than we want to see, right? About celebrities or events going on in the world. In 1945, we had radio. They were just really getting into TVs, but very few people had them. And there was newspapers.
Is that the biggest thing in the newspaper?
Newspaper and radio. So, imagine your phone blowing up. Like with some big national event, some big earthquake or some big attack like Pearl Harbor happening right now. Your phone's gonna blow up. You're gonna find out all about it within seconds. The equivalent of that happened with the Nuremberg trials. It was played out on the world stage on purpose to make a statement.
Was it just like the German officers and major powers that got tried? Or were like the Japanese tried for Pearl Harbor?
There were
From
some
the
others
Confederates.
tried, yes.
Like, did we have like a Pearl Harbor thing?
That
and
was,
they got punished for that?
well, we kind of dealt with that with Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So it kind of like did
We were vigilante. We took justice in our own hands and said, "Oh, really?" We took the fight to them. We dealt with them. We shut them up
So we
pretty
didn't have
quick.
to worry about it in court.
But FDR was very, very upset with what happened. And so that was why we did what we did
To make a statement.
to make a statement. And so now when we got to take part in the Nuremberg trials, we couldn't go drop a bomb on all of them, right? We could, but, that's not really gonna fix anything.
But people may not to mess with.
Right, we're dealing with two other countries, right, while we're sitting down at the table,
Shut them up for a little bit.
trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Calm
You
it
know.
down, just not really calm it down.
That's why
but
they
make it
think
sound
they're both-
further.
You gotta get concessions, there's things you got to do. So, that being said, the trials went by fairly fast. It took a matter of 4 years, but that's not very long.
Speaking of how many criminals.
Right, that you gotta think about the amount of criminals they dealt with. It went by relatively fast.
So like get them in, get them out.
Get them in, get them out.
Bring on the
Pick a number. And the executions were swift.
Were they hanging?
There were hangings, there were, some were shot by rifle.
Do they do like lethal injection or do they do?
I do not know for sure.
Or is that not like?
I
That was
believe
one
the
of those
Soviet
things.
Union, if the Soviet Union and UK had their way in some places, they were probably putting a front of the firing squad.
Yep,
I think
exactly.
they're put them in gas chambers and furnaces.
There were a lot of people
Eye
that
for an
said
eye.
that. Like a lot of the the Allied forces that were the ones that stepped foot
Yeah.
into these camps.
Start at first.
You know what they probably were sitting there saying? Well, you know what? They killed all these Jews in a gas chamber. Have at it,
Do
boys.
what they did to them.
So you think they were disappointed that they got such an easy death by firing squad, by
Some
having
got easier because they didn't
Didn't
see.
they,
Or just lock
didn't
him
they
in a
think
room.
that they were like taking a shower? The people, the Jews?
Did they know what was happening to them? Or did they kind of?
To be honest with you, their speculation is all I can vouch
Have at
for.
it.
Especially younger people, they're not gonna understand what's going on. Older people might have had a sense that something was going to happen, but they didn't know what. I don't think they really knew until it had been happening in their camp for a little while, what was going on. Which is rather sad.
Were like little kids at you and like infants and stuff happens? So it was just
Everybody, if you were a Jew, you were the devil, and you had to be done.
I have a
They did-
question. On
they
Boy
did-
in the Stripe of Pajamas, you know how he dug and whatever to go into that concentration camp? Why didn't he just like let that kid out and like
Because he didn't understand.
they were too
He
young.
was naive, he was 8 years old.
and
was- he didn't know it was a
bad
place.
Did they really
actually
Like, you know
like,
how it was like
Okay.
surrounded with German troops and stuff? They would have probably found the kid.
cause like when they watch the videos and stuff.
Do they
it
really
seemed
have
like
those
it was
dolls,
a
like the
good
German
place.
shepherds?
And then when he
So-
saw those little,
They really had those?
little things, he's like,
What?
the ponies.
So now, what I want you to do, here's how we're gonna finish up today. I want you to work with two people on your left and your right, some of you, and come up with rules of war. On the front of your packet that I gave you earlier, you had when you came in, it says civilized society has long had rules for war. According to international law, not everything goes. Imagine that you are sitting on a committee responsible for developing 3 rules that all nations must abide by during times of war. What 3 rules would you insist upon and why? Work with your group and come up with 3 rules, and then we're gonna run down the board and see what we can come up with as class.
Mutual assumption of destruction. Mutual assumption of destruction. Another word. Mutual assumption of destruction. No, I'm not freestyling over there. No, I ain't freestyling over there. And just lock, and just lock a single one in a room full of Jews.
Is that a right word to say? Because you have repercussions.
That's a very great word. Repercussions works.
Worse, make it his own dog.
And remember, when you're coming up with these rules, they have to not be biased. You've got to consider that this has got to go for everybody.
Who's gonna feed Buddy?
Every choice has help start if you can.
Make it like a clear window. Make it like a window so you can watch what's happening. This is what you did. This is what you did.
Well, yeah.
By the time they got to the last guy, that guy would probably be completely insane.
Due process of law. Kind of like we have in our Constitution. Our Constitution works things very well in some instances.
Just let him you live with this.
It modifies and changes. That's why it's considered a living document.
The Obama and stuff like that.
You live with this.
Cause they do stuff like this
Jump out.
when
Is
they.
he still trying to?
Don't give them like an option.
Like the Nuremberg Club.
No, they just had their own laws. I mean, we had never been faced with something like this.
So it was kind of a.
This mass genocide to this degree,
I just feel like I think we live
It was something.
it blindsided everybody.
Yeah, no.
But now they have it.
Like you wouldn't think it'd be in there.
Now we know
So
it.
they would like, this would be the step rules they would go
With
by.
Iraq and all that going on, all of the genocide, now we have rules. And the United Nations
I'm starting to pick up on it.
enforces.
Are they gonna do that like this? Like, cause Iraq kinda reminds me of this, because they want the perfect.
So you get to live with it for a week.
Instead of the perfect race. They're gonna start doing what Hitler did. And is this what's gonna stop them?
It's like just ice.
Does it?
And all those.
Oh,
It's alpaca.
guys, y'all are working. Y'all are working really, really hard. I'm gonna kind of stop you. Rules need to be short and sweet, so that there's not room for loopholes. So, first round on the box, give me one, just anybody.
No nuclear weaponry.
That makes me like,
No nuclear
Or
weapons.
chemical.
No, there we go. Thank you for clarifying that. No nuclear or chemical.
Or biological.
Oh, well, goes to your head.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's it.
Because it kind of affects more than just the soldiers.
Well, what happens
It's
if-
the home front.
Miss Bethany,
Yes, ma'am.
when the bell rings, could you come down here, please?
Yes, ma'am, I sure can.
Thank you.
If one person pushes the red button,
Everybody does.
So it's kind of like a little.
Until there's nothing but
Domino
just
shape.
a rock floating on.
exactly, we'll turn it into a wasteland, right? It'll be a big mess.
Yeah.
So this one, guys, you started me off great. This one's beautiful.
Because that's kind of what's happening, because everyone now today has like nuclear stuff like that.
Mhm. Give me another one.
Everybody just knows.
Every criminal is entitled to due process of law.
Aha. More criminals. Are entitled to due process of law. Now that, you have to make sure that there's a set way that this will be handled, right? There's gotta be a process in place,
So everyone follows the same.
so everyone
exact-
follows the same rules. Do you think everyone should be treated the same? All war criminals?
If
No,
it's,
it depends.
it depends on
How much
Depends on the extremity of the crime.
damage that they cause.
Okay, so they need to have a fair trial, right?
Like degrees, like if you have like murder degrees, like
That's
first
just like-
degree.
Exactly, you gotta have degrees of
Firing
this.
squad.
So, that is a very good one, guys. Give me a third one.
Any person not loyal to their own country will be tried as an enemy of the state.
Okay. Unloyal. Citizens will be tried as enemies of the state. That's called what?
Treason?
Treason. If you eliminate treason, does that eliminate war?
You know, because
No.
wars never, or someone's gonna have a problem with somebody.
Everybody's gonna have a problem with somebody else at some point in time. It's just gonna happen. We're all human.
Just depends on how you handle your problems.
Now, something I'm kind of thinking about in the direction that y'all are going. Treaty of Versailles kicked off Germany. Do we need to have something in place to place blame?
Like if you start it and you cause so
You
much
reap what you
damage
sow.
for everyone, the repercussions like should be so little to the holders that you
Yeah.
have to figure out what to do with it.
You
Yeah,
take
like-
your
So take
consequences
Yeah.
for causing.
Your actions have consequences.
All right, guys, that is it. Put your stuff in your folder. We will pick up with this tomorrow or on Monday. Thank you, guys.